So what we're talking about is creating leads in your business. There's lots of ways to do this. I spent over 20 years as a sales professional. So I not only know the traditional relationship building, the pipeline, all of that kind of stuff, I'm an avid proponent and believer in it. A lot of people that talk about growing an email list, building automated funnels, and some of the newer marketing strategies actually really try to avoid that, because for a lot of people, it's an easy out. Like, how can I avoid doing that? I think that these should work together. I think that all of your marketing efforts should amplify and supercharge your sales efforts. That's what I think creates a business that stands apart and leverages things really well. So how can actually building an email list be the most valuable sales tool in your business? And if you are familiar with the business hierarchy of needs that I talk about, everything is built upon that layer of sales. If we don't have sales in our business isn't breathing. So is building a list really important to our business? Like I said, I believe it really is. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We talked about the 3 topics that I want to cover and make sure that I help you understand and answer questions about. The first one is, why is list building an email so powerful? And I'm going to give you some examples as we go along. I'm going to give you maybe not examples for every single one, but I want you to always be imagining your business, but I also want to respect your time. And so just in an effort to do that, I'm going to give you examples of the things I think are most relevant, but I want you to be thinking about your business and how it might fit in these situations. We're also going to talk about the common mistakes that people make when they get started or as they are continuing down the process of building a list, and how to avoid those mistakes. And we're going to talk about, how do you build a list in your business? How do you get started? What are the most vital pieces of that? What does it actually look like? So let's start with why building an email list is so important for your business. Most busy business owners don't actually understand why they should have a list of really interested prospects that they can take through a journey and take them from being curious to enlightened, to further enlightenment, to really excited about the possibility and the transformation you can have and how you can solve a problem, to actually converting, and then even on to being raving fans that are actually helping you build your business. So there's a lot of potential here. The second thing is the thought of building a system or strategy into our businesses that build a list, for a lot of my clients, can be especially daunting. I work in a lot of construction industries, home building, local service providers. I spend a lot of time in the roads and streets industries, equipment, paving, suppliers to these industries, all of these kinds of things. I also spend a lot of time in the ag world because I had a business in that industry for several years as well, and now live in the Midwest. So seed companies, farm dealers, once again, equipment. So there's a lot of overlap with those industries. But one of the things is, these business owners, when they start their business, they're pretty active. They typically are the sales force. They are doing so many things. And so they oftentimes really get daunted by, how do I build this system? How do I have time to create and implement that strategy? It's one more thing I have to do in my business, and it can be really daunting. It can even go to the point of being quite overwhelming. So let's talk about some of the facts about email marketing that we know. Email marketing, it's one of the simplest and the most straightforward ways to nurture a relationship. Like I said, I grew up in sales. I spent over 20 years, and these were relationships that your first sale wasn't coming even in 3 months, right? You were having sometimes years of building that relationship, educating somebody before they actually became a customer, if at all, right? Because everybody we engage with doesn't actually go all the way through to fruition. So that is how I, really spent a lot of time doing it. I actually went and worked for Coke Industries later on in that career. And that was the first time that I really had a marketing effort behind me in terms of educating and amplifying sales efforts. And it was really incredible. It really opened my eyes to how the two could collaborate together and work together, because we have to nurture those relationships and we have to educate people. Very few people actually show up ready to purchase. We have to get in a position where we can nurture that relationship. So oftentimes we show up as business owners, especially if you're actively engaged in that sales process yourself, or you have sales team members that are, we show up, and every time we want to move that forward and we want to take another micro step towards that end result of solving that problem for them, we have to physically show up and do it, or pick up that phone and do it. And this is a way to help move that along. Even if you're doing that, where you're showing up in conjunction, these are additional touch points that we can create. And we know that people convert faster and more effectively if we use multiple medias to touch point them, video, email, phone calls, actual live, conversations in person. Maybe they see you at an event. Maybe they read content. Maybe they read about something that your business is doing. All of those things are touch points that matter in the relationship that you're nurturing. And email gives us an avenue to directly go into their inbox to start forming that relationship. So let's talk about another fact. Email marketing is incredibly effective. When done right, it can consistently generate 80 to 90% of your landing page traffic. And people these days want to go to our websites to learn about us. Even if they were referred to us, no matter what, people want to see what you're about. And throughout this, we're going to talk about something that I consider a really vital piece of all sales and our marketing. This is the piece that everything else should be built upon, and that is your brand message. I call it your brand script. That is the document that I create with my clients for their business and any product or service that they are creating and talking about and promoting and trying to sell as well. And so a lot of that messaging starts and should be very cohesive on our landing page, on our main home page. So if it's done effectively and consistently, you can be really putting about 80 to 90% of the people that pop onto your site, you can be pushing them there. Really, and for a lot of us, that's where we get them to commit, to schedule a call, to apply for something. There's so much we can do to really capture and move that next step right there on our sites these days. So that can be incredibly powerful. So let's talk about the next element here. We're talking about not only does it have a really high conversion rate, but as you build your list, you can continually monetize by pitching multiple products to your list. So what I mean by this, and I'm going to give you an example right here. And this was an example I talked about in another live stream. We actually did a case study. That was a fictional company that was based on a more real company, a few different companies that I've worked with. But think about a supplier in any industry, maybe a landscape supply company that actually landscapers come and buy stuff from. Or in the example I used in the case study on my previous live stream, we used an asphalt supply company that someone that supplies emulsions, actual products, and the tools and equipment that they need to actually, local contractors need to do their job. So if you have an email list and they came to you because they had one problem, they were looking for one solution, one product or service, right? This is where you can educate them and continue to tell them about the other products and services you have. We assume that if somebody buys something from us, that they're buying everything they need from us. And in fact, that is not true. This is a huge profit loss for potential for so many of the people that I work with. Landscapers that have said, I always have wanted to, I go in and I do these new landscapes for home builders, but I really want to be able to keep that relationship with the homeowner, and I would love to put on a whole nother crew and do maintenance. But I can't figure out how to do it. I can't get enough traction. I really need so much interest generated before I commit to really hiring that crew. Well, if they had a list, if they had captured all of that and they had been continuing a relationship, they could actually create that, what we call oversubscribed sensation, and actually know for a fact that before they hired the crew and set it up, they would have a certain amount of buyers ready to go and commit. Same thing is probably true in any of our businesses. We're always adding things or better educating people about how they could use our products, or we're getting new ideas about ways we can serve them. We have to have a way to tell them about it. So this is definitely somewhere where I see huge gaps in potential and what's actually happening within people's businesses. Let's talk a little bit about this next one. It's social media. And I want you to think of social media as a really, really great place. It's a great place to fill funnels. If you're using a list growth strategy that incorporates an automated funnel in your business, it's a great way to, help you stay top of mind, to show up, to put content out there. It's really, really a great place, and we should all have a social media strategy that's part of our marketing and sales. It's a great place to find prospects, qualify prospects, because there's so much information about them out there, but it is just rented space. When we actually put stuff out there to promote and encourage people to buy our products, we have to understand that they're only seeing about 1% to 2% of what we put out there. Even if they follow us, they're only seeing a small fraction because that's not our space, right? We have to compete with everybody else that's on there, and we have to compete with the platforms themselves and the algorithms and how they are showing stuff. So you need to keep this in mind. Your email list is yours. It belongs to you. You own your email list. No one can change the rules. No one can limit your ability to engage and grow a relationship. You've been invited by them to be in a relationship in a place that is much more intimate than their social media page. So it's really, really powerful. And so let's talk about the next point. And email is the most scalable way to make sales with new customers and build deeper relationships with those customers. So you want to go deeper and deeper with those relationships. And it is the most scalable way to do this because one email, right, that you send can touch all of those. And, we know for a fact that you get about a 78 on average deliverable rate, especially if you're keeping your list clean and stuff, that goes into their inbox, which, like we just talked about, that 1% to 2% in social media, that's huge. That's so different. So the bigger you grow your list, the more you can scale strategically your products, your services, and your overall business sales strategy. So let's move on. Emails wait in somebody's inbox until they're read. And when you write really useful emails, people might refer to them more than once because emails are really easy to search and to store. I know I have on my Outlook, I have folders, and I have people that write such good emails that I save all of their emails and I go back and I reference them. Or they provide really great value in terms of content that they've created or free resources that they're giving out. And I know that they do that. So even though I might not be buying from them today, I actually keep that stuff and I create special files and places to put it so I can find it when I want it. So this is something that's really, really important to understand. Everything in social media goes away. It doesn't stick. It doesn't stay there. And when we are in front of somebody, or we've got a sales team and they're going out and they're making those contact points, people are incredibly busy. And when those conversations are over, or even if we leave a piece of paper or a brochure for somebody, that stuff gets easily lost in the shuffle. That conversation quickly goes out of their brain because they are on to more pressing matters. If you're really strategic about your emails, it's a really great place to be because people can actually keep it and search for you, search for something that they know you sent them or something that you were talking about when they know they are finally ready to solve that problem. So really, really great tool. And that's just how people use email. So we should take advantage and leverage that. Also, another great thing is that you stay top of mind. So only a really small percentage of customers show up in that first contact ready to buy. The first time they're on our website, the first time they meet us somewhere, the very first time that they come across anything from us, or they first meet a salesperson, they're probably not ready to buy at that point. They may have that problem, but there may be some disconnect. You may need to be connecting some of the dots between the problem they have and what they think they need versus what they really need, which is what you have. So there might be some lifting to do during that process. And you can stay top of mind if you are consistently showing up with valuable emails in their inbox. And then you can take them on the journey and they can come to you when they're ready. This is something we have to understand. We have to be there and be available whenever they're ready. And email really helps us do that. So let's move on. We're going to talk about creating a deeper enlightenment of your brand and the problems that you solve and the solutions that you provide. So think about this. We're going to talk about this just as it is in general, but we're also going to talk about it in terms of how it works in conjunction with your sales pipeline. So if you have a sales team, if you are your sales team and you're proactively prospecting and you're working through those relationships, and you know that your product or service lends itself to that and that you're going to get good traction that way, our emails can actually help accelerate that enlightenment phase. So when they're learning about us, getting comfortable with us, getting comfortable that we are that authority and that guide that can actually solve the problem for us for the right fit, it's a right solution. Like I said, there might be some education that needs to happen. So, in between all of your physical touch points, you picking up the phone, you doing all of those things, you can have actual email going to them that's helping them along, right? It's helping the journey along. You get more touch points. You can answer more questions. You can fill in more of the gaps much quicker this way. So it can really advance our sales pipelines as well. Emails will allow you, well, let's go back. Before we move on, I want to talk to you about an example for that one. So let's talk about a lot of times what we see is businesses that have traditional sales teams and they are proactively prospecting. They're highly engaging with them. Their products or services probably don't lend themselves maybe to just an online purchase, right? But they start using an email system to send more information, to engage, to add value, to overcome objections and stuff. All of a sudden, what we start seeing is salespeople start getting phone calls from the prospects that they've been working on and their automated system has also been working on. So they're coming at them from multiple directions. Maybe you're also doing some social media, you're doing some phone calls, you're showing up places, you're showing up at the same events, maybe you're speaking at something where they were, and they're getting a regular email from you that's really taking them on a strategic journey, all of these things. And then what we see is if we're really, really on point and our message is really good, very clear and consistent, and like I said, that cornerstone, your brand messaging, you've got to build it on that. If you're staying consistent, you're probably going to be really agitating that pain point. You're going to be providing value. You're going to be overcoming objections. So when that person's pain point, when it all of a sudden that problem becomes on top of mind and you're showing up consistently, it's more likely that there's a really good chance. And what we see happening is those prospects end up calling their salespeople and saying, hey, I know you've been talking to me about this new product that you guys rolled out, but I have been busy and I, bought stuff previously somewhere else, but I've been reading these emails and I've been thinking about them. And this last one that you just sent really, really talked about a problem that we're having that I don't think your competitor can solve for us. And I want to sit down and talk about this a little bit further. I want to see if this actually is the right fit for us. So we see conversations like that happening all the time. And it's not that that salesperson wasn't doing their job. It's just that they had something else helping them, working with them, working just as hard as they were and moving in the same direction, using the same message the whole time. So that's an example for that one. Let's talk about emails and how they're going to allow you to engage in a two-way conversation. And this is something that companies overlook quite often, even if they are actively building and actively engaging with their list. There's critical times in the growth and development of our business, of our services and our products that we really need to engage more back and forth with our customers, maybe our previous customers, even our potential customers that have been following us and getting our emails in their list. And we need to do surveys or we need to get on the phone with them and we need to actually understand. If you're looking at potentially adding a product or service, making an investment, so let's go back to that example of the landscaper. He needs to understand if there's enough demand for maybe a weekly maintenance service before he adds that crew. So you can do twofold here. You can actually ask people to engage with you. And if you've been consistent and added value in your emails, they're going to be really happy when you actually ask them. People want to help. People want to be asked for their opinion and their advice. So you're actually going to get feedback about, would they use that service? Why would they need that service? Is it more mowing? Is it more fertilizer? Is it more flower maintenance and weed control? What are the things that are really would get them excited and interested in that? So you can actually customize that product or service to make sure that it's going to meet their needs and solve their problems That strategy, all of those communications can be strategically designed to create interest and actually get an oversubscribed list of users for your product or your service before you ever invest in it. This is something that without an email list, you could never do. So we've talked about several reasons and ways you can use an email list. There's so many more, and we could go on and on about that. And it's really great when companies get highly active and engaged in this because they come up with amazing new ways to do it. So there's so many more, but in effort to really respect your time, let's talk a little bit about the mistakes we see in list strategy. Oftentimes when people are getting started or when they've already got started, but life happens, distractions happen, business comes up, all of those kinds of things. So let's look at that. The first one is not getting started. So I know so many business owners, I can't tell you how many business owners that once we start building this in their system, once they get traction and they're seeing that coming in and they've had their first real feel of sending, they've been emailing their list and they've been filling their funnel. So they've been growing that list and they've been offering value. And then all of a sudden they offer something to them and they have this huge, impact in their business and their bottom line. They get huge movement in their growth and their sales from, something that feels like that one email, and it wasn't. It was the whole system, the whole process working. But then that trigger point, they say, oh my gosh, what if I would have done this 5 years ago in my business? What if I would have done this 10 years ago in my business? My list would be so much bigger by now. The possibilities would have been endless. So I don't tell you this to have you regret what you're doing right now. I tell you this, or what you haven't done in the past. I tell you this because I want you to get going. There's a great quote by Henry Ford, and it says, the only real mistake is the one that we learn nothing from, right? So don't worry about what you haven't done. Get started now. So the next really critical mistake I see is skipping their brand messaging. This is a tool that I create with my clients called the brand script. And all of my clients that are going to work with me on marketing strategy, building systems like this into their business, working on sales strategy and building tools into their sales teams have to start with going through a brand script process with me. We do it for the overarching company. And if there's a specific product or service that they're really wanting to target on, we create it for that too. And that document is the most valuable tool that their marketing and sales teams have. It becomes the story that everything else pivots around. And we know that stories are so powerful in our marketing and sales. It helps people go on narrative transportation. It actually helps their brain imagine the possibilities and imagine how they're going to overcome the obstacles that are in their way. So it's really, really powerful. And it's so important to, one, get it right, but then also consistently make sure that it drives everything in your messaging, your marketing, and your sales. Salespeople benefit just as much from having this, creating tools, presentations, proposals, conversation scripts, discovery call strategies based on that brand script. It all comes from that. So the next mistake I see people make is overcomplicating the process. Like I said at the beginning, people feel incredibly daunted about, they don't know how to do this. And I think that that's totally fine. Most business owners, this isn't their business. They do other things. So it's natural for them to not know how to do this, what to do, or where to get started. And then when they do get started, they assume it has to be so complex and so hard, and they overcomplicate it. I can say that even as somebody that does this in other people's businesses, when I come to my own business, it's really easy to make it complicated, too cumbersome, too hard. So it's really helpful, and this leads us to the next mistake, to have somebody do it with you, to not be going it alone, because that'll help you from making the mistake of overcomplicating the process, getting off your brand script, losing motivation and starting the process and not finishing it. So that's that next point. Going it alone can be a really big mistake, because for most of us, our high value is not necessarily doing this, or at least not doing it alone in our business, but getting somebody to help us do it so that we get it done and we can still be focusing on where we really create the most value in our business and for our customers. The next mistake I see is not letting sales and marketing complement and amplify one another. So like I've mentioned multiple times throughout this process, really building an email list is not just for marketing. It's not just for automated no-touch sales. They should, and when used together, can be incredibly powerful. And if you are using the same message, they need to hear something, approximately 7 to 8 times before they actually really hear it. We assume everything that we say people actually hear and consume and understand. And that's not true. In our marketing and our sales, even when we're sitting down and having a conversation, people need to hear the same things repeated over and over and over again. So they should be working together and they should be following that brand script. So another mistake that we often see is letting their list grow cold. So you don't want to build a list but not be showing up there. Remember, this is an incredible opportunity to build a relationship and deepen that relationship, leveraging your time. You're probably reaching out and you're doing some of those more, high-end touch points as well, but make sure that you're not neglecting this touch point, right? If people see you consistently in their inbox, they may not even be opening it every single time. But one thing you need to look at is, are they not unsubscribing, which means they probably are keeping you, maybe they're putting you in one of those folders because they know that you solve a problem that they're going to want to address sometime in the next 6 months to a year, and they want to be able to quickly find you and follow back to where they can actually connect with you and continue down the journey and actually take action. So you don't want to let that list grow cold. You put so much work into building it. You've built a system that's working really hard in your business. Make sure that you let it continue to work and support all of your marketing and your sales. Then the last one that we're going to talk about, and there's some other mistakes, but these are really the biggest ones I see, is not having a strategy and also not staying on that brand script. We've talked about that. But have a strategy. Know what that journey looks like for your customers. And even though people coming in at different times, they accelerate or take action at different rates, you need to understand that overarching customer journey so that you can build a strategy that gets more people there better, and it allows you to also really connect better with the right people. A strategy will go a long ways to making sure that you have a healthier pipeline that converts better because it's really got to qualify the right people coming into it and sticking with it. Remember, it's okay for people to opt out of your list or to not even join your list, because if that's the case and your message is clear and you're consistent with your message, they're not for you anyway. They're not the customers that you're going to be serving down the road. So it's completely okay. We actually like to see that, a good and healthy amount of that, when we're using this strategy in our businesses. So how do we build and grow an email list, right? We talked about this can be pretty daunting if this isn't what you do, or you feel like you're not exactly sure, you're curious how it could really work in your business, but you're not exactly sure, you haven't experienced it. You're just not sure how it would work, how it would benefit, how you would use it. So how do we do it? These are the first steps that I really like to see people take. And if you stick around here, I actually have a free resource that you can grab to actually get started on what I consider that most critical piece. So the first thing you want to do is you want to clarify your brand message or your specific product or service message. This is your brand script. It may require a little bit of research about your audience, but it's going to help you walk through a process and pull out the really key elements that a true story and brand script is built on. Then you need to build a profitable automated sales funnel into your systems. You need to have a platform where you can capture those leads, where you can push people to, so that you can help support your sales team. You can stay consistent with your sales team. Or you can actually, some people in certain products and services never have that contact point. They go through an automated system all the way through. But you have to build that system and you have to make sure that it's built right so it works and it's effective. You need to be consistent about filling your funnel with qualified prospects. I run a program, we call it the Story Built Marketing Funnel Bootcamp, and in that we have a whole section dedicated to strategies for filling your funnel. This is something that is always evolving and always changing. And like I said, when businesses start doing this, they get really creative about how they do it. Some of the ways this happens is social media. Some of it is ads. You may be running ads. It could be speaking on podcasts at local events. It all really depends on where your audience is and the lead generator or the thing that you offer them in exchange for their email, and how powerful and compelling that is, how much value that can bring to them. But you want to have a strategy and a priority in your business where you are, and this leads us to the next one. Set a goal and measure what matters. So set a goal about how many people you want to be coming into your funnel, and figure out what you need to measure to make sure that you are moving the needle on that. And it helps you clarify the activities that you're doing that should be a priority. You could work incredibly hard and do a million things to try to do this, but you need to figure out the very few, the 2 or 3 things that work to consistently bring in the right leads, and just be consistent. You don't have to spend hours or all of your time doing this. You have to pick the few things that actually work, that are going to move the needle, that align with your customers, that align with your product or service, and with your business strategy. And those are the things you do. Those are the things you measure. And then you're going to see a lot of traction filling that funnel. So I did mention that I have a free resource for you, and it is the 7 elements to a clear brand script. So we talked about the brand script. We talk about your brand messaging all throughout here, and how that's really the thing you have to get right, because you're going to reflect back to it and use it in every single element of growing your list, building that funnel, creating a high engagement content, creating sales tools, from your proposals to your discovery call strategies. All of those things, the things that you're saying when you're prospecting to qualify somebody, all of those things are going to come from that. And it is a guided workbook to help you clarify your message and actually grow your business. And this is where you can get it. You can get it over at www.storybuilt.marketing/brandscript. So you can get that. I want you to get your hands on that resource, and you could get started getting clarity on that right now. Because even if you don't have an automated funnel built, this is going to give you a lot of clarity about how you position yourself to really get people more intrigued and not bouncing so much on your website. You can create I have another resource called The Perfect Business Intro. You can find it right on my website. It's on that front homepage towards the bottom. And that is storybuilt.marketing. And it's what we call one-liner or a perfect business intro. You can use that, and elements of this brand script are what you actually use to create that. So that would be a great secondary tool for you as well, as a little extra bonus resource for you to snag. So make sure that you go over to storybuilt.marketing/brandscript and you get a hold of that. You could actually start that process right now. So imagine in 6 months or in 1 year, you've seen giant leaps forward in your sales and those prospects that are highly engaged, really following you and getting excited about what you're doing and moving further down that customer journey. They're closer. They're not like you haven't even discovered them yet. They're actually moving along the process with you. And you're already seeing big incremental sales, and you're not working harder for it because you put the work in up front. So that's what growing an email list and implementing an automated funnel can do in your business. So I want to tell you, I did mention a little bit, and we have some opportunities coming up for the Storybuilt Marketing Funnel Bootcamp. This is a process where over 5 weeks, we are actually going to help you implement this into your business so you have that automated system. So many people start the process or think about it or put it on a list that they need to learn about it. They need to understand it, or they need to start budgeting for somebody to do this for them. Whereas in 5 weeks, you can do it. You can have an actual guide that does this with people going through the process and looking at each piece that you're building as you go, and actually helping you make sure that you get it implemented, and not even that, but actually launched in your business where you can get a big boost going for that email list. So what we do in that is we create all the profitable marketing funnel elements based on a proven framework, including that brand script. We actually go through that and run through your brand script and really flesh out what's right, what's on target. We challenge you. We make sure that you actually are on point and it's really clear. Because what we know is that if people don't necessarily buy the products and the services that are best, they buy the ones that they understand the fastest. So that's why that element is so important. And you're going to get all those elements built. You're going to get feedback on them so you know that they are on point, they align with that brand script that you built. And we're going to encourage you to actually get them implemented and into your platform while we're running this process. So each element you can create, you can actually be putting that into the system and building it so that you at least know how stuff works in your business, and you can have that element of control over that and that piece. Then we're actually going to help you launch that pipeline. We're actually going to talk to you about strategies. Where do you need to be showing up? Where is your customers at? How are you going to connect those pieces and start getting the right customers coming into your funnel every single day? So in that 6 months, in that year, you have a huge number of people that you can go out and offer your products and service to, and they're already highly engaged. They know the problem that you solve. They know the solution that you've created to do it, and they know that you're the right choice for them. So that's what this process does. It actually gets it done for you finally. So if you are interested in that, it's very limited. We only take a few at a time because we want to make sure we can look at each element. There's weekly live events. There's resources, templates, and training, but we can only take so many at a time, and we only run it so many times a year. If you are interested and you want more information on that, or you want to join right now or get on the waiting list for that next round that's going to be happening, go and visit at storybuilt.marketing/bootcamp, and that is where you can get your spot locked in today for either the upcoming round or the next one, and we'll let you know when that's going to be available. All right, I hope you found this helpful. Leave comments, leave questions. I'll do my best to really try to answer any questions that you have, and hopefully you feel a little bit more confident about what it is to build an email list and why it might be really relevant for your business. So make sure that you get a hold of me on LinkedIn or Facebook with any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer questions regarding building a list in your business. Would it be effective in your business? Which I always believe the answer is yes. And get excited about what you could possibly do with that list. So I hope you found this helpful. And once again, make sure that you go over to storybuilt.marketing/bootcamp and you check out and see if there's a spot available in the upcoming round for you so you can actually get this built into your business and start growing that email list.